Hey, Drew here with Influence Trainer, and we are with a familiar face today. Mentor of mine, a friend of mine, Raj Tedlaw, who runs his own business and helps small businesses grow through turbulent times. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Raj has a unique perspective. He started his own business, consulting, coaching, training business during or a couple years before the recession of 0809. And he navigated through that recession, even a young business through that recession, and helped other businesses do the same. And so we have so much to learn from really this expert on leading your small business through turbulent times and growing through turbulent times. So Raj, I'm going to pass it over to you. You've got some training, you've got some teaching you're going to share with us. I'll ask some questions along the way. For me, I got to make it simple, right? For me. So if I have a question, I'll jump in there. But beyond that, I'm going to pass it to you and share with us what you've learned and what we can do during these times.
Thank you very much, Drew. I really appreciate the opportunity. Like you just mentioned, I want to go back to the 2008, 2009, because I was having a very cushy corporate job at that time. And then I decided, and the business was very good for about first 9 to 10 months. And then the whole financial crisis hit. And for the next 3 years, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it was so bad that you could not even talk to some people, because right now it is a health related issue. At that time, it was strictly financial issue. So it was much more difficult. And navigating through that was the toughest one.
Okay.
And the good news is I'm still in business and I'm still supporting small and medium sized companies across 28 different countries, not just in the US. So the good news is that you can overcome that.
Yeah.
The challenge part of it is, are you resilient enough? Are you having enough skill to think, reflect, and change accordingly so that you can grow your business? So those are the two critical aspects there. You need to be going back and looking at what is happening there. You need to reflect on what is happening, and you need to be willing to change.
That's good.
And if you can go back and have that, we can withstand. Basically, it can be Corona, it can be any financial issue or anything, because this is not going to be the last one. We had one in 2008. 10 years later, we are having this. And if we look at the history piece of it, another 5 to 10 years or 15 years, you will have something else. So basically, the business cycle will go through that. That is the kind of the universe.
Not to mention, individual companies have their own crisis moments.
Exactly.
During certain times. Exactly. There's regional things, there's natural disasters, there are failures in leadership that you have to overcome. You lose a big client. All those things, all of these same principles will work for those businesses even beyond this time. And so this is something every single one of us needs to be aware of, what you're about to teach us, and we need to take notes. I'm taking notes here.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good, Drew. But this is where it is being thrown at us, which is very different from internally if you don't have the leadership piece of it. So there are some similarities in it.
Okay.
But there are some distances. So my focus all is whatever is happening in the environment, in the business world, how do we take it? How do we reflect on it? How do we learn from it? And then how to go back and respond to that. So I'll give you a simple example. I needed to go back and I have a shower door. There is a problem. I need to replace my shower door, a small job and stuff. So basically, I've been much more involved in for me, I was more of a global guy. So whoever I have a contact, I call them, they come over and do it. So for the last 1 year, my chamber has been encouraging and stuff. Can we go back and do business locally to help the local business? I said, fine. And then I started the chamber and they gave me a name of a person who does this and who's been doing this for 20 plus years. Very good reference and everything else. So he came back, looked at the whole thing and he said, Raj, give me 24 hours. I'll send you a quote. I said, perfectly fine. And then he came the next day with the quote and everything else. I liked the quote. Everything was fine. And I said, hey, perfect. And then I said, what to do? And then he said, sir, you need to give me 50% advance check. And then I will go and install it next week. And then basically I asked him, can you please promise me when you can come? Even if it is late by a day or two, I want you to maintain your timeline.
Yeah.
He said, okay. And then he called the factory or a manufacturer, whoever, he buys the doors and the material. And the person said, hey, we are not sure because we are shutting down the plant today. And I said, okay, that's fine. And then I said, do you have alternate sources? He said, no, sir, other than that company, I would not buy anything else because they're one of the best. So I said, you know what? If they're shut down, we don't know. Or generally they say that, but they go back and open it up in 3 days or 2 days. We should have it next week. I said, if the manufacturer is telling you that, I don't want to make a decision based on that.
Yeah.
And then I told him, hey, basically the local hardware store which is close by, I saw one of those things. I really like it and stuff. Why don't we go? I will pay for it and I buy it. You just bring it and install it. Because anyhow, your basically proposal had material cost and labor cost. So your labor cost is the same. But material cost, I'm going to pay it. So it doesn't make a difference. And he said, I've been in business for 20 years. I will not go back and use any other material. So that is where a fundamental piece of it is. Then I said, you know what? I cannot go back and wait for you to come and tell me whenever is the unknown date is.
Yeah.
I need to get this fixed.
This is going to be a tough time for him then, because I was just working with another manufacturer and their warehouse is shut down for 2 weeks now because of coronavirus. And those things are going to happen throughout time. You've got to have a backup plan or be able to adapt to the situation. What are the things you like about that company, that manufacturer of the glass door or whatever it is? And can you look for those same things in this other company? It's really baffling how resistant to change some people are in those situations and are willing to just forego business. I guess he's just in a great place and he doesn't need the business. I don't know.
No, but again, if you go back and look at it, not just the effect, because he does offer a few other services. So this was the first project I had for him, and I had 2 other projects to be done in the next month. So now he has lost 3 projects.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is he came through a reference from the chamber. And I was in a chamber meeting with about 25 people on the call, and somebody asked him, say, Raj, how did it work out? And I had to go back and explain that to them. And they say, oh my God, he was not ready to do it. If you are paying for the material, I said, that's what it is. Oh, then it will be very difficult. I was thinking of using him in a few weeks. So now he has got 26 people. No, it was not intentional. But because the discussion came and stuff, now 26 people will go back and say, you know what, should I be doing him or not?
Yeah.
Should I be using his services because he's so rigid? And he doesn't know how to approach his clients now. So until now, we said we extended it by another 4 weeks. So technically, if the chamber is not referring to him, he really doesn't know where he gets his business from for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
So that is a fundamental shift. They need to be there. So I don't know what was his reason for not using it.
Yeah.
So after the fact, I was thinking about it and stuff. So he must be getting some basically as a percentage discount because he was implementing the thing from the company or whatever the reason might be.
Yeah.
If that was the case, he should educate his customers on that.
That he has a specific agreement with that manufacturer and he won't use other. Yeah. But there's got to be, you got to be able to get out of that or you'll go out of business in the meantime while they're shut down. You can't be beholden to whatever time that they open up their manufacturing. It's
and interestingly, fast forward for a week and I got a second person because I need to get it fixed still, right?
Yeah, right.
And he came, he did the whole thing and he gave me the same thing. He was almost cheaper by $100. And he said, sir, this is my standard piece of it. I do 80% of my business with this manufacturer. But right now he's shut down, which was exactly the same manufacturer the other guy used.
Oh, wow.
And he said, these are the 3 other people as my backup. We are working. But this is one from Carolina. It's coming. It will take you extra 5 days for shipping, but it is going to be here in about 7 days. Is that okay if I come in 10 days and fix it? Then I said, Can you please confirm that? Oh, he said, no problem, sir. And then he called somebody. He went back and said, sir, they're expecting that it would be delivered on so and so date. Give me another plus or minus 3 days. I'll be there.
There you
So
go.
same
That solved the
business,
problem.
same thing. Exactly.
Mm,
So that person was responding and looking at the situation and saying, how can I serve my customer?
yeah.
This person was saying, how can I follow my process?
Mhm.
And it's been what I've been doing for 20 years, and that's all I will follow.
Yeah.
So he has lost at least 3 times the business just from one person because I had 2 other projects. So
That's
people
good.
has to be looking at it from not just an action. So that is what I tell people is don't look at events. So right now, if you go back and look at what is happening with the whole coronavirus thing, right?
Mhm.
If people think, oh, you know what, I'm going to just sit tight for a few weeks and then things will come back to normal, those are the people who will be missing a lot.
Mm.
But who are people going back and saying, you know what, there are certain fundamental belief systems I have, and based on that, I have some assumptions for my business, for my personal life, for my things. But it looks like this is going to change everything.
Mm.
So let me go back and see what are some of the assumptions I'm making from my business point of
Good.
view, from my personal point of view. And then how do I need to go back and what kind of changes do I need to do? So that is the fundamental change people need to start looking at it at this critical time. Am I going to go back and look at the actions, or I'm going to go back and really look at my assumptions?
Yeah.
Actions are going to be surface level, top level. So there is
Mhm.
no fundamental change there.
Okay.
But these are some of the things where fundamental change has to come. So you need to review all of your assumptions. In small businesses, they might not use the same language of assumptions or actions or anything like that, but
Mhm.
intuitively, based on their experiences and everything else, they have a belief system in them. They
Yeah.
acknowledge it or not.
Mhm.
They have a belief system for their business and for their personal lives. And sometimes it's a combination.
Yeah. Even an assumption that you may have that could undermine you in sales could be I'm only good in the in-person communication or the in-person meeting.
Yes.
Well, you're out of luck right now then, because that ain't happening. No one wants to meet you
Exactly.
face to face right now. And we're not supposed to, the government has asked us not to meet face to face with people. So um, you need to overcome that assumption and figure out how you can either get good at phone or video, or just change your belief about it and get good at it, because that could be in our business or in any sales situation. That could be an underlying assumption that you could make, and it could undercut your success during this time.
Yeah. And to your point, that is a challenge. We need to constantly review it. So again, just to go back and give you the same example, building on that, about a year ago, I have never done any conferences like this or video chats or recordings for my customers or your customers for anybody. I can talk to them in person. I can talk to them on the phone. I can do basically Zoom call to teach them, but I've never done something like this.
Yeah.
Thanks to you. And I said, you know what? Hey, Drew is telling me something. Let me look at it. Let me try. Let me change. And
Yeah.
now I'm so comfortable doing it because I took the first step. And I should appreciate you for really pushing me to do that.
Hey, I love being able to put this information out there. We've been friends, been on the phone, and been in a mastermind group together for some time now. And I get to hear from all your experience and your working with 28 countries with all these different companies. And I can only share as much as I can share. I want people to hear it directly from you and understand where you're coming from. And because some of the people listening to this video right now, they need to reach out to you, and they need to access some of your training and some of your consulting services to help them navigate through this time. So it's about adding value, right? And that value it's got to be very tangible at this time. It's not about self-actualization at this time, right? We look at Maslow's hierarchy. It's not about that. It's about what can you help me do to navigate through this time? And you are a prime example of a person that small business owners need to be listening to at this time. So yeah, no, thank you. All that to say, thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah. So Drew, remember we started with the discussion of my 2008 to the 2010-11. So
Yes.
one point, again, I just want to finish one thought from that point. Going back, at that time, the government was putting a lot of funding into the market.
Okay.
They're putting a lot of things into the infrastructure to go back and really get the economy going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not intuitive, but with trial and error, what I recognized at that time is all the companies, small and medium-sized companies, supporting the infrastructure, the federal, the state, the city governments, they had the funds. So in the process, I recognized and I started focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly I built my business in that segment piece of it. Because these people are having the money, they're getting the contracts, they're going everything else. So if I would have not used that segmentation and just gone blindly after everybody, I would have wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
So by the 2010 came, I spent some time and I had a few customers. So I could at least survive. I don't say that I made a lot of money, but I just survived that time.
Yeah. And that's where people are. And I think how we can translate that today is look at essential versus non-essential business. That's a term that we've all become accustomed to now. What are those essential business? There are businesses that they aren't skipping a beat through this time because they have to continue to do business. So as you look at your target audience, your ideal client, small business owner out there right now, you need to be looking where are the essential places. There are places that are open right now. They're doing business throughout this crisis, and they're going to continue to do business after the crisis and have their employees and have their team members. How can you serve them? What tangible thing can you do for them? That what service or product can you create for them so that you can stay in business during this time?
Yes. And in addition to that, you can do this and you can take the time to work on whatever you learned about your business and come up with something so that you're ready and your foundation is strong so that you become profitable as soon as this whole crisis is resolved. Yeah. So two ways, that is the powerful piece of it. And to go back and tell this time when I heard all of these things, I'm telling you, frankly speaking, I was not even worried for 5% of the time because of what the lessons I learned and what processes of the reflection, the learning, changing, managing things, and the transformation piece of it. Since I did a lot of these things and learnings from my 2008 to the 2011, I had my book of knowledge with me. And that really helped me to navigate. And that's the reason why I was much more comfortable. I was not under pressure. I was not under anything else.
Yeah.
And every single customer who was active with me, they received some information or the other.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, basically I worked almost 50 plus hours last week and the week before because I was still supporting my clients.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter money or not or staff, it is revenue generation or not. I am here just like how the companies are doing to support the clients. We need to be there to support them.
Yeah.
So I have a bread manufacturing company who was really, really in trouble. So I spend a lot more time on that, helping them to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
So they used to always supply to the big stores. So we have come up with it with a quick short-term solution where they can deliver the food to the customers to their house. They're essential. So we went back and created a website for them. And immediately we made it such a way that at least the local people can enjoy fresh bread.
Yeah.
And they don't need to worry about going anywhere because they have their drivers are allowed to drive because it is food is essential service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And stuff. So they have gone back and done that. And now everybody thought, and she thought it would affect her business very, very negatively, the owner of this business. I mean, I think in the last 2 weeks, we have seen at least 10 to 15% growth in sales. Wow. It's 2 weeks, but it is still growth because we're looking at it.
Well, it's during a time where a lot of people are seeing a decrease in their sales and their revenues. So solve the problem. The key there, solve the problem. And as a business owner, I think one thing that was very important that you said there is you have your book of knowledge. Now, I hope you're sharing that book of knowledge with us today, right?
I mean, basically, I'm just putting it into the stories to share.
Yes.
Basically, one thing is this thing. But there are 5 things or 6 things I would say that every business has to do. I'm going to get there in a second on that piece of it.
Okay.
And those 6 things, if every business owner at least takes some time, work with their leaders to evaluate, it will give them a huge opportunity for them to rethink their business plan.
Yeah. And what people need to hear too is this isn't theory. This is you lived through this.
Yes.
You developed this through a challenging time, came out as a winner. There's going to be winners and losers through this whole thing. That's how it is every time, every
Yes.
day, right? There's winners and losers. Businesses come up, businesses go out every single day. We want to be on the winning side. The people that are watching this video want to be on the winning side. You're going to share with us the principles. And so if you're listening, you're watching this video right now, and you have never navigated a recession, you've never navigated a crisis like this is something unique, but you've never navigated a crisis in your business, you can get your confidence from Raj and borrow the belief from Raj because he has navigated successfully. So that's what you're hearing today. And I want everybody to understand that clearly, that they're hearing the book of successfully navigating a previous recession, downturn in the market, and how you come out as a winner. And so those are the 6 things you're sharing with us. People need to understand this is, you can take these and you can put them into practice, think, reflect on them, and then change. Make sure you change. The ones that survive this are not necessarily the smartest or the strongest, but the ones that are willing to adapt.
Exactly.
The quickest. And so I'm excited about this. I got my paper out, my pen, and I'm ready.
So I want to talk and touch a couple of points before we get into the 6 points there,
Okay.
Drew. So if you go back and look at it, everybody thinks there is no good that comes out of this whenever you have a crisis like this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really go back and look at it from 2008 to 2010, 11 kind of a time frame, this was all pretty bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Uber, which is an international business, was born during that time. Before that, there was no there. So
Okay.
Uber, everybody knows that.
Yes.
Airbnb never existed before 2008. It was formed during the recession time.
Wow.
Slack, an internal communication for a lot of corporations, that was developed at that time.
Wow.
Pinterest, that was developed during that time. WhatsApp, which is one of the fastest and the most used tool for communication, that was developed during that time. Square, Venmo. So just to go back and say, these are all unicorns, $1 billion plus valuation companies. And all of them came during this time.
Wow.
And I was very interesting because one of my friend's friend lost his job and he said, Raj, can you talk to him and give him some advice? I said, fine. And I asked him and he was very, very nervous. And I just asked him one question. In the whole history, have you ever heard what was the worst unemployment rate? I don't have a data, but he told me that, Raj, I have seen 20% unemployment rate, which was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him one question. Are you geared and would you consider yourself to be in the top 80% or in the bottom 20% from your skill, from your experience, from your learning?
Yeah.
And I said, if you are in the bottom 20%, you need to put in the time and effort to get to the 80%. If not, you don't deserve a job. I mean, I was very, very, instead of sympathizing with him, I had to bring him the reality.
Yeah.
So are you communicating that? Again, number one, you might have the skill, but are you communicating it very effectively? Then I said, I'm looking at your LinkedIn, I would never call you for an interview because you have not updated that in 6 years. So what is the message you are telling?
Yeah.
So I will look at it and say, you don't have the skills I'm looking for. So people has to go back and look at it. If your business, if you feel like your business is going to fail, is it in the bottom 20%? From a leadership perspective, from your product quality, service quality, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And these are the times where we need to look at very, very tough evaluation of ourselves, tough reflection, whatever you want to call that piece of it. It's almost like the transformation. If you look at a butterfly, everybody loves butterflies. They're beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But if you just take one step before a butterfly, it is a caterpillar. How many people look at a caterpillar and say, I want this as a pet, or they enjoy it? Not many people in the world. Because it's pretty ugly, slimy, whatever you want to call it.
Crawl on the ground, you know?
But the transition is so much. So are we going to go back and become that ugly, looking at our own business, looking at our own skills, looking at our own stuff?
Yeah.
Not to go back and criticize ourselves, but to go back and say what we need to change.
Yeah.
And that is one of the critical steps before we do anything else. So that critical evaluation, and they need to have a good positive attitude towards that. A lot of people look at whatever hype is happening in the media, watching TV or everything, and basically they are sharing news. And
Yeah.
most of it is bad during these times.
Oh yeah. And it's sensational, right? The news media, they have to sell ad space. They have to capture attention on social media. They have to stop you from scrolling so
Yeah.
you'll watch the video. So it's going to be negative. It's going to be bad to grab you and grab your attention. Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, for me, I don't spend more than 15, 20 minutes, maximum 30 minutes a day, just trying to get and understand what is happening in the world. Other
Yeah.
times, I'm just putting it aside. And that is what I tell a lot of people. The
Yeah.
first thing is replace the negative attitude with a positive attitude.
That's good.
The second one is focus on gratitude.
Hmm.
And what research has shown, and what I have learned personally and in the research, is whenever you have a negative focus and whenever you're doing a blame piece of it, your brain almost becomes white and there is not much activity going on in the brain. It doesn't know what to do with it.
Hmm.
But as soon as you shift that into a positive side and you're explaining gratitude, there's a lot of different activities happening in your brain.
Hmm.
And in that part of it, you start coming up with creative ideas, new ideas, change ideas, whatever you want that. So earlier, when I heard about it, I did hear about it 20, 30, 40 years ago, but I was not sure where because I thought it was more of some person talking about it and there was there. But University of Pittsburgh and some of the universities have done some research to prove it as well.
Yeah.
The more positive you are, the better ideas you get and the easier for you to overcome that. So that
Absolutely.
is the other piece I tell people about that. And then the journaling piece of it. Because
Hmm.
our brain goes through almost 10,000 different ideas every single day. So there's a lot of stuff being thrown at us. So the
Yeah.
only thing we take the time to write or type, like most of the people like to type nowadays. I'm still an old school on that because the power for me is once I write it, I remember it for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why I tell people is start reflecting and documenting something that is coming to you. And last but not the least, from a personal perspective, have a mastermind, have a
Hmm.
group of people you need to talk to. And if you don't have all of those resources, go get a coach,
Yeah.
get a mentor, whoever it is. And some people say, Raj, it is already tight. I don't want it. I say, it is an investment.
Hmm.
If there is one good idea that can save your company, is it worth all the money and time you spend on that?
Yeah.
But again, that is the last resort. You are part of a chamber of commerce, you have friends, people, but go back and get into the right set. I don't want an entrepreneur, a business owner sitting with 10 people who are all basically career people working for companies. It
Yeah.
would not be a good match. They need to look at it that from that perspective. If you are
Absolutely.
a business owner, be working with some of the other business owners.
That's good.
That is the kind of a thing. So, from a personal mindset perspective, those are some of the things I feel like are very, very important.
Good. You got to have those things going into this process and going into the whole activity of engaging with these 6 things that you're going to share with us.
Yes. So, right now, to go back and look at it from that perspective, the first thing I say is, what is the vision for your business? And a lot of people go back and say, Raj, at this time, you're talking about vision? I said, this is the perfect time for it. See,
Mm.
until now, whatever you have done, you got business and you became successful. It is the time for you to go back and reflect and say, is I have learned a lot of experiences. I have learned a lot of things. How is my vision? And how is this going to affect my vision? Remember, we're talking about a transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Yeah.
So that's a huge change. So spending some time on that to really understand what is that we are doing. And you can pivot to a different business if that is what it is, or you
Hmm.
can accelerate it, whatever the situation, because every single business is different. So just to go back and look at it from my vision and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I created a program called Egos.
Yes.
And I always thought that I have to implement it being in person with the leadership team for the 4 days.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, I travel to Singapore or to China or to Malaysia or everywhere else implementing it. But you know what? Now I'm looking at it and saying, how can I do it in chunks of 2 to 3 hours a day for 5 days or 6 days,
Mm.
and supplementing that with some more reading activities or through video activities.
Yeah.
So I have already formulated an idea and everything else. It takes quite some time to implement it, but
Yeah.
this is a fundamental change for me.
Absolutely, it is.
So I don't need to be on a plane anymore if I can get this and see the results which I'm getting the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about efficiency and effectiveness. If you can get the same results or better with this new way, you're saving your client money. They're not flying you out. You're
Exactly.
saving yourself time because you're not spending time on a plane, and you get to be home around your wife.
Exactly.
There you
Exactly.
go.
That's the part of it. So opportunity. This is an opportunity. So this is a blessing if I look at it from a business side, because it's making me to think differently.
Yeah. And your clients are open to new things right now too.
Exactly.
Is another side of it.
Yes, yes. And the second part of it is every business has a geography where they do 80% of their business.
Mm.
So a lot of business happens across. And when a typical example I talk to people is if it is a product-based business, like you're talking heating and ventilation, HVAC, or anything else. So that has to be geography-based because you need to physically take equipment. For a service-based business like yours and mine, where we are helping and coaching and doing leadership training, it can be anywhere.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what I tell people is when they're looking at the area where you're serving, I tell people is look at it from how much money and resources you have and where would you spend that resources to go after your customers. Because nobody has an unlimited cash to go back and market to customers, right?
Yeah.
So if I take Drew, you can do sales training in Malaysia and Japan and Singapore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you have enough capital and are you really interested in marketing and spending your resources there to grow that business?
Yeah. No.
That is what we need to go back and look at it now. So every business will look at it and say, hey, where am I focusing for my customers' business? And go back and look at it, not where you can serve, but how much resources do you have to communicate and consult with them and make them your customer? Because there is a cost involved, which we call the customer acquisition costs.
Mm-hmm. That cost on the front end.
Yes, yes, that is all about the front piece of it. And so the first one is the vision. The second one is, we call it the sandbox, basically where your geographic location. And the third one piece of it is the customer segment. And this is the most, what I would call, misunderstood or misused term, I would say, in the business world I have been working with and looking at the small and the medium sizes.
Yes.
And the reason I tell that is everybody is my customer. That is what you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really understand, so the bread company, basically the discussion I had with them, and they said, Raj, basically every person who eats a bread is my customer. I said, great. So now I have people in Afghanistan who needs bread. Are you going to serve them?
Yeah.
So that answers the geographic question. And the second part of it is, how are you going to reach them?
Yeah.
So we looked at it, and her whole business model was around going through working with like Stop and Shop and the big chains, like Super Walmart or Target, or they're putting their bread there, customers come and buy.
Yeah.
So they were targeting only on that. But now they identified, because this one is located in the Miami area.
Okay.
So they went back and focused and said, how can I reach the customers locally?
Mm.
So now their complete business model has changed. Now, instead of going and focusing on selling business to business, now we had to change it from business to consumer.
Mm.
And as soon as we change that, then we have to have different systems, different things, what we do.
Change, being willing to adapt.
Exactly, exactly. So that is from the customer. Go ahead.
And you talked about mindset on the front end, and you've worked with clients, I've worked with clients where the biggest change that has to happen is here.
Exactly.
You know, it's they're still making bread. They're making the same kind of bread every day.
Exactly.
They put it in the same bag and people still eat it. but they had to change. And sometimes it's changing your view on what success is. That's maybe the hardest thing, because you've been driving towards this is success. If I can get in a Walmart, then I'm successful. No, if you can sell bread, then you're successful. And if you can sell it at a good rate that gives you a good return, you have good margin, you hire people and you grow your business. If you're in Walmart or you're on the street corner, it really doesn't matter if you're selling the bread. Right?
Exactly.
But it's easier said than done. I have them too. You have them, we all have them. But that's the change that we all need to make, is in our thinking, be willing to go to places. And in the coaching process, we have this process of, we ask the question, what could you do? We're not saying you have to do it, but think about every single option. Well, I guess I could send my kids to school with bread and they could try to sell it to their friend. I mean, there's no school right now, but you know what I'm saying? As an example, it's not saying you're going to do it, but let your mind go to a place where you think of all the possibilities and all the options. And then you figure out, going through this process that you're sharing with us, what's the best option? And am I willing to do what it's going to take to accomplish that option? And then we can, make headway. But yes, that's fantastic. Great stuff.
So that is the one I was talking about, is what is your belief system and what are your assumptions?
Yeah.
We started with that piece of it. So all of that's the reason why I started with that, because that is the foundation for us to make changes here.
It's powerful
And stuff. And we talk about products and services. So you said about products and services from a business point, right? So let us stay with the bread example.
Okay.
So basically, this bread company was doing, and they had packages where they had 2 breads because the customer wanted like that. They had 1 bread and the things like that. And they had some cookies and then some basically pound cakes and different products.
Man, you're making me hungry here.
I know. That's the reason why I went there and gained 2 pounds when I spent 2 days there.
Bread.
No, my weakness is bread. I love bread.
Yeah.
So it is like a kid in a candy store, right?
Yeah.
But now they need to go back and look at it, not based on what the store was telling them and how they need to pack, but how would an average customer, a family of 4 or 5, would buy that.
Yeah.
So once they went back and said B2C, now they need to go back and see how we can package it differently.
Yeah.
How can we price it differently? And how can we go back and have a combination of different? So there, generally, it was like 2 breads means only 2 breads.
Mm-hmm.
But now they need to think of the package and shipping to the customer, right?
Yeah.
So I want a pound cake. I want basically a box of cookies, and I want a bread. So how do you go back and look at it? So it's a total mind shift and a change, and they need to be ready for it. And that's how the product piece of it comes.
Yeah.
But the biggest change, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
No. Well, okay, let me say this. Another thing that people are going to deal with that change is sunk costs, right? They're going to say, but I've invested so much in trying to market to the big box store, or trying to present things in a way. I've done, market research, and I've done panels and studies and tried to figure out who my ideal client is and how. So I can't just throw all that money away to do. But if you don't, right? If you don't change, then you'll just slowly die.
Exactly. And you brought a very, very good point. Whenever people have already invested money, it is a sunken cost. Whatever you do, it is not coming back.
Yeah.
And just to add one piece of it to that, I'll tell you is basically everybody is trying to go back and reduce their overhead and expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking at an SBA loans and all the financing available. We are thinking of investing $100,000 in new equipment and developing our capabilities by 30%.
Wow.
And this was a person 4 weeks ago when I first spoke to her. And she said, Raj, I think I might have to go back for chapter 11.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a shift. That's
4 weeks later, yeah, we have not applied for it, but we are looking at all the different options and everything else, because there's so much of basically SBA, small business funding, a lot of funds available and stuff. And now we're looking at the business model very differently.
Yeah.
We can go back and sustain that.
That's
Even investing in 100,000, we're looking at some of the risk factors and the financing and all those things, because we need to look at it. But at least that is where we are as of Friday.
Wow.
We prepared a plan for it and stuff. And the owner is going and talking to some of the banks and the SBA people to see what they say. And then we will finalize that in the next 2 weeks. So that is the mindset I want people to start thinking about.
Yeah, that's good. That's finding the opportunity in the challenge, in the challenging situation, and looking and finding the opportunity. That's fantastic.
Yes. And then the next point, the most important point, and if people don't have time, they need to look at it, is how am I reaching my customers? How am I communicating with my customers? So of all the points we have, if I can only do one, that is the one piece I will go and spend. So how are we going to the market? How are we communicating with our customers? Under these current situations, what has changed for them? And how can we play a role there and help them?
Yeah.
A lot of those questions come into this piece of it. And if they can do just this one piece of it and not do nothing else, they'll be much, much ahead of it.
Yeah. And I think it's an important distinction. We must recognize, because you mentioned something, you said, what are the challenges basically of my client, my customer base right now? What are they going through? What has changed in the last month since this whole thing came out?
Yes.
And we don't want to make money off of a crisis, but we do want to figure out how we can make money through the crisis. And that's an important distinction, but that's your business's success or not. If you don't figure out how to make money through this crisis, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this webinar. That's why we care about you, the listener. We want you to make money through this crisis. If you don't, then you'll no longer have a business. And so you're not taking advantage of it, but you are saying, what are the needs and what skill sets do I have to solve the problem for these people, or create a product to solve their problem, so that I can continue to stay viable through this time. And that's a very important thing.
And Drew, one point there, people, if they want to do price gouging or they just want to go back and charge a lot, they're thinking it very, very short term.
Absolutely.
Because the customers or clients, whoever you're serving, will remember that.
Oh, yeah.
So let us say 6 months, 1 year, maybe you'll have double the sales for 6 months or a year. But after that, people will remember that and they will not come back to you.
Bad taste in
That is what I call is unethical.
Yes, absolutely unethical. Yes.
But you providing the value and getting a decent return for that is not unethical.
Absolutely.
So definitely that is the distinction which people and businesses have to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the masks, right? Some people have been hoarding some masks and they've been charging, instead of $1.95, they're charging $7.95 and $9.95 and things like that.
Mm-mm.
So that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
That is unethical.
Yeah. But if someone like, I can't remember, I think it was Gap, if they can start manufacturing masks instead of clothing, because their clothing stores are shut down, that's making money through the crisis, solving a problem, meeting a need, switching gears, and staying in business, keeping your people employed through a crisis. I mean, that's smart business. That's not exactly. What a wonderful distinction. Thank you for clarifying that with the masks and making that point of what we're trying to communicate to people here. You got to think creatively. You got to think quick and adapt.
Yes. And that is the biggest piece of it, which we need to be aware of. And we're taking the time to reflect on things, that is going to happen.
That's good. And
this is the piece of
with your customers, communicating with your customers. That's huge. Letting them know you're still here, because you just mentioned a particular company going out of business early on in our conversation. And that's going to happen. Unfortunately, that's going to happen during this time. We've got to continue to communicate to our clients. If they don't hear from us, they might assume that we can't handle this crisis. If you're in business and you're staying in business, communicate to your clients or to your potential clients that you were almost closed a deal with. Hey, we're still here. We're navigating through it. These are some changes we made. We're here to serve you. We have a team. These are the resources at our disposal. This is what we're doing. Communicate. And I think we've seen, even from a federal presidential level, you can't over communicate. I mean, the president and his whole task force is going out every day for a couple hours every day. But that's vital information of what's new today. And so as necessary, don't overwhelm your people with emails. That's not what we're trying to say, but do communicate in a way that I think a personal touch is valued at this time, to let people know that you're still here, especially for the small business. We're talking small businesses, that's who we're
Again,
talking
that
to.
is
The corporations, they've already sent out 1,000 emails from the CEO. I've gotten them all. But from the small business owner, talk to your clients and assure them that they're still going to receive the services that they need for their business during this time.
that is the biggest piece of it. And I told, out of the 6 points, this is the most important.
That's so good. I've got it highlighted.
And after that, go back and review the whole value proposition. What is the value you're providing? So this is an opportunity to go back and say, am I really serving my customer very well or not? And is there anything I need to do? What I need to make changes? Again, so this is a great time to go back and review all of those things.
That's good.
And then the next one, value proposition. And then the last but not the least is the brand promise. That is the big piece of it. So crisis time, your brand promise is much more important than anything else. Because this is the litmus test for you. Everybody says, I will provide outstanding customer service. I'm flexible to meet my customer needs. But is this the time you're really ready to meet and be flexible to me?
Yeah.
So that is the piece of it. Like brand promise. One of the things I always tell my customer is, I'm there for you when you need me. So just to give you last 5 days, just as a simple sample, I had meetings at 8 o'clock in the night with CEOs of my customers. I had meeting at 10 o'clock in the night with my customers in the Eastern Standard Time. Wow. Because they are managing crises there, but they really wanted to talk to me and do it. So on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, I and the CEO were on a call.
Wow.
Because he wants to, he's dedicated to his employees and staff, because he has 200 employees to take care of.
Yeah.
So we are working, and I have a customer to take care of, him and his leadership. So we were on the phone. I think we ended around 11. I don't even remember what. We were there more than an hour at that time on a Friday night. At a regular time, you are not going to be there on a Friday evening because it's your time and family and stuff. Yeah. But in crisis mode, you need to come up and be that flexible. So now, am I living my brand promise? At least I know my customers would go back and say, yes. Yeah. I need to get hold of Raj. I will be there. And you know what? I give all of these people my calendar access now. Generally, I don't give that, but I give them access. And I said, hey, pick up a time. And if you can't find a time, send me a text message or something, and we will figure out a time to talk to you.
That's good.
And that's the reason why I was saying it was so busy talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. And that even goes down into going deeper with your current client base during this time. Yes. I don't want to have a negative mindset, but there will be more challenges around building trust with people that have no idea who you are right now. This is the time when you think about a crisis moment, you do and you stay with what is known, and unless there's some reason not to trust that. So we want to shore up what is known. So our clients, our customers that know us, that we've been doing business with, or we're right there on the edge of closing a deal with, but we've been working alongside for an amount of time, continue to let them know. Like I reached out to a client and I said, hey, I have a training, I have a webinar for this time about leading through crisis. And I have my own. I'm going to take this though and put it on my YouTube channel and then send emails out to people that have been potential clients to add value to them, to resource them. But through those connections and saying, hey, I'm here to serve you. If you want to do a webinar with your sales team to kind of pep talk them, I can do that. Through that, I get feedback that, hey, we love your proposal. We just got to get through this thing. Whenever this thing is over, we're ready to pull, move forward with the proposal you gave us. So what did that do? Inadvertently, just by saying, I'm available to you, we're working together, I'm here to support you, they felt like they had to respond, say, we like you, we want to do business with you, we're here with you, let's get through this thing, and we're there. And that was not what I was trying to do. I was genuinely trying to serve a current need, but that's what came out of it. So serve the known, continue to market, right? Continue to have your marketing systems out there and allow those things to take place. But this probably isn't the place for cold calling right now.
But again, Drew, I would go back and say is you can do cold calling if you can add value to them.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
See, because one of the things I learned from my mentor early on.
That's a good point.
So the mentor who told me was, Raj, you're doing a disservice if you're not calling on people who can definitely benefit from your service if you decide not to call them. That was such a big mind-changing idea from that mentoring session for me.
Yeah.
See, you know that you can serve the customer and really add value. And if you're 100% sure of it, communicate that.
Yeah.
Are they willing? Are they ready to accept it or not? At this time, they may not be ready, but they might be ready some other time. But you have done your job of communicating that you can provide the value.
Yeah.
And for all business leaders, I want to go back and close this with two more things. One is a leader is a person who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. That is what everybody thinks, right? But in these times, they still need to do that irrespective of whether they know the way or not. So that is the change piece of it. In order for them to really understand that, they need to have somebody next to him whom they can comfortably discuss in an open, trusting way, where a mentor or a coach can really play a role there.
Yeah.
Or a trusted other CEO. It doesn't matter who it is. But if they have one or two people like they're trusted, whoever it is, and start talking to them, then they feel much more comfortable so that they can show the way for their employees. It can be 5 employees, 50 employees, 500 employees, it doesn't matter. But they need to show that. And the second critical part of it is, I want everybody to go back and look at the daily agenda. What are they doing and what are they working on? The secret for success during this whole thing is determined by your daily agenda.
Yeah.
And if people are not paying attention to their daily agenda, we can get into sucked into basically a lot of news on the TV or on the internet. You just go back and put Corona and you can be busy for 4 hours, 5 hours without getting any value out of it.
Yeah.
So you need to look at it. And I'll just share a couple of things for me. If I'm looking at it, one of the things I noticed was there were some gaps in how the small businesses go to sales. So with all my experience and everything else, I am developing a nice sales curriculum for the small businesses, just to give you how I'm going to serve my customers.
Yeah.
I am going back and I identified 6 small business owners who are what I would call in their early 30s, mid 30s, very young. Yeah. And they need the support because I know they're going through something like what I went through in 2008.
Yeah. Something they've never been through before.
They've never been through. And now I am really mentoring staff so that they don't do the same mistakes what I did.
Yeah, right?
Yes. I am so active with my local chamber. They want me to do a webinar on a topic. They have a couple of businesses who are struggling and they want a coach to work with. I'm just offering my services.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to them, giving anything and everything. And for most of my existing customers right now, I'm putting a program. It is a 4-hour workshop, which will be delivered through through Zoom.
Yeah.
And it is all about the mind shift piece of it. As leaders, how do you need to look at different things and how do you change your mind? Going much more deeper into the process. There are about 10 different things leaders can do. Some are comfortable with 4, some are comfortable with 6 or 8. But I want to take 4 hours, work with these leaders so that they have enough tools so that they can start thinking and changing as well.
That's powerful.
So the first pilot of this program, this is all completely new, which has been developed in the last 1 week, 10 days.
Yeah.
And the first thing is, and these people said, Raj, we are in a service where we can't Monday to Friday. I said, fine. So we're doing it on a Saturday at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm flexible. I'm here to serve. That is my promise.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it with them. And I sent out a message to 5 customers and one responded within 2 hours and said, Raj, that would be great.
That's
and
fantastic.
now in April, I would be doing that with at least 5 or 6 customers.
Yeah.
So that is how my daily agenda is.
New way of thinking, new way of serving, new ways. That's if you have that positive attitude, that attitude of gratitude, and you're looking at the possibilities. Every challenge has opportunities surrounding it, and every opportunity has challenges, right? So if we look for those opportunities in this challenging situation, we're going to find them. Can you run through real quick the 6 things that a business needs to do? Just bullet point them real quick for us, and to close us out.
Okay. The first thing is the vision. Review your vision, see, make changes that you need to look at it. Number two, look at the geographic location. We call it the sandbox. Where do you want to play? And determine if you have the resources to go back and play that, or define it such that you can serve that market. Look at your customer bases. Look at the market customer segments where you want to serve. You can't serve everybody. So focus on that. Then look at your products and services. Can you go back and sell the same thing what you're doing? Or because of the situation, how do you go back and make changes to serve the customer better? And the next bit of it, and the most important, I would say, is how are you reaching your customers? How are you communicating with your customers? How are you understanding their needs? That is, I would say, the top priority, number one piece of it.
That's great.
And the next is the value proposition and the brand promise. So those are the 6 things I would tell people to focus on. As a small business owner, this is what you're focusing on.
That's it. And that's what you really want to go back, watch the video, take the notes, think into and reflect on what you learned and how this applies to your specific business. And you will be able to navigate and really grow through these turbulent times. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Raj, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this time with you, and I know many businesses are going to benefit from this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Drew. It was a pleasure.
If you found value from this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. To receive the free influence assessment, simply click on the link below that says Influence Assessment. If you have any questions or comments about influence, please comment below and I will look forward to connecting with you. Always remember, increase your influence, realize your dream.